Good morning, guys. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Usually we do this in the afternoon, but we have our special edition coming to you right now this morning. And today it's kind of a good time because we are going to talk about gaming, and the holidays are right around the corner. So
Yep.
let's discuss. Roll the intro. All right, so if I go to you and I say, "What is gaming?" What would your first answer be?
Caroms and bowling and tennis. I don't know.
Okay, not exactly what I expected, but I guess I walked into that one. All right, so while you are correct, gaming does qualify under sports. Gaming originally actually came off the word gambling. So gaming came back from all those times. So you people who like going to Atlantic City and Vegas, I guess you're the original gamers because that's the thing.
Who knew?
However, more recently, we've decided we're a little more legal. So gaming is now bigger in the online sport or sense. Whether it's your PC or your console, gaming is everywhere. So today we're going to talk about gaming for non-gamers. And no offense to her, I figured this is the best person to do it on because, though you do have something I don't, so that is kind of funny. Um, but really, gaming went from solitary to social. It used to be something that you would play by yourself, whether it was literally solitaire or maybe Pong against yourself. I don't know how that would work. But nowadays, it's an activity that people do together. Now, it wasn't always a family thing. It usually was competitive. I've talked about esports before, how games like Minecraft and Fortnite have become huge and people win money.
Right.
You actually have a job playing video games. That's crazy.
Isn't that's kind of I don't know if it's that's cool or just
Well, it's funny because a lot of times if you watch, those shows on TV about toys and about stuff like that, a lot of times the people who make this stuff, I don't think they really assumed this was going to be anything more than just something for them to make money. For instance, the people who made Pong back in 1967, they wanted to have it be a bar game. They're just like, put it in a bar and leave it. Well, as we know, Pong became the number one game to play until we started getting other systems.
right.
So I think you're partially right. I think it's kind of just hey, I'm a computer engineer. I'm going to make a game. Let's play. All of a sudden, boom. I mean, they're obviously long gone, but their
Right.
prodigies are now making billions off
Right.
of.
And also, Rob, the game started out, as you said, in the bars. They literally were on tabletops. I remember distinctly sitting in a bar in a restaurant before we would go sit down, and on the table was actually built in Pong. And you would drink,
Oh, okay.
and then you put your quarters in, or whatever it was, 10 cents in, and you would play Pong there. So I think, it actually evolved more as a I think in a restaurant in a bar on a tabletop. You weren't really there weren't computer screens at that time, and there weren't certainly weren't handheld games at that time. So it's very interesting.
I just think Chuck E. Cheese, when you had those weird little things you
Yeah,
play and,
yeah,
you get the tickets for winning. But as of 2019, the gaming market, and now we're talking what we're, the big stuff, $152 billion. And that was a couple years ago. So obviously since then, by 2025, marketbusinessnews.com estimates almost 260 billion for just the gaming surface. Now, keep in mind, as you mentioned before, it could be everything from tabletop to
right.
physical games like pool tables and darts. And it also includes what we're talking about today, the online electronic. Now, the biggest thing, or the biggest two things I mentioned before, first one was esports, where you make money off of it. Now, if anybody watches ABC, a few months ago, there was the tournament that they actually shot live, and it
Mm.
was, I don't know, 100,000 people, however many people in a room playing a game. Not the most invigorating thing to watch. However, I was on there for a few minutes going, why am I watching this? And oh, that's actually kind of cool. So that by itself makes up most of the money. However, cloud computing, now we use the cloud a lot, right?
Hmm.
Cloud computing makes all of this able to be done. So thanks to people like Google and Apple and others who use the cloud, we can do more of this online thing. But also keep in mind that means that those people are probably making a couple bucks because it's their systems. So gaming is not just for the gamers so much anymore. Now, the next article that I found, and this one really goes into gaming for non-gamers. You thought this was funny because I said, parents and kids are now bonding over their games. Well, it actually is true. From thedrum.com, they used some information how family gaming is more popular than ever. And this was written this year, so this is a very new article. The first part, they said, get rid of the boy in the basement stereotype. So how many of those 90s movies do you see where that kind of weird kid is down by himself playing his system or playing a tabletop game? That's long gone. No longer are you stuck in your room playing by yourself.
Interesting.
That's a big deal because a lot of times when you say video games, and again, now at this point it's a meme, it's kind of funny, the older generation goes, oh, that's weird, get out of your room, go outside and play. But nowadays, you do actually go outside and play
Right.
stuff like Pokemon Go, stuff like the VR headset. You actually have to be up and moving to actually make the stuff work, right?
Right.
So that's the first part. And alone in the US, 163 million people are classified as gamers. So
How
I don't know
many?
how many people live in the US.
Wait.
163 million people classify themselves as some sort of gamer person.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And I'm assuming there's a lot of people in the United States, but that's a lot of people, right?
Right.
Now, the ages go differently. The peaks go between 18 to 34, which is more of the people, the younger generation, but 25 to 44 is right there next to it. So overall, you get basically from your 20s to right before your 50s, people are considered gamers. That's a big difference of age, considering it used to be solely young. Nobody over the age of 30 or 40. Now, almost into your 50s, you're playing your games. So what do they say next? Well, the next part is kind of interesting. If you had to guess, what genre do you think people are liking the most when it comes to games? Do you think it's action? Do you think it's adventure games? What would you venture to guess? Because I was actually shocked by this answer.
I would say action games, but
you are correct. So overall, generally speaking, whether it's between the 20s or the 50s, almost 60% for each of those is picking action. Now, that's kind of funny to me because being, in the Pokemon realm, in the Super Mario realm, nowadays, RPG, role-playing games, where you basically get to just run around the screen and adventure, those are becoming more popular. So the fact that action games are the number one, I'm kind of curious. Maybe we'll find out later in the show. I don't know. But I'm kind of curious how that ended up being
who knew?
Number one. Now, console is king. And I guess if you want to throw it up really quick, this is just part one of consoles, I guess. But people are picking specific consoles, whether it's PlayStation, whether it's Xbox, or Switch. This is actually the gaming gear I think we have up here.
Oh, this says console on here. I see Kin Hank Super Console. Am I doing the wrong one?
Oh, I see. The visual says different.
Oops. Okay, well, you keep talking amongst yourself. Let me remove this.
Okay. So console is king. So most of the time people are picking gaming via the company there it is. So obviously we have Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo that kind of take up the most. So Sony obviously has PlayStation, all of that. Microsoft owns the Xbox area. And of course, Nintendo owns everything else in the entire world, whether it's Switch, N64, or something else. There you go. So when you are talking gaming, it's no longer game to game. It's console to console. So that's just a kind of fun little thing there. Lastly, and this actually, props to you because you are the parents in this conversation, power to the parents. A lot of times people were concerned that video games were detrimental to your mental health because of the violence. However, when you game with your family, you are kind of in control of what goes on.
That's right.
If you see a game that you might not think is too hot to be playing, that's okay, because if you say, hey, I want to play a game with you, let's play this, you're having the family time. So power to the adults in the room here that are watching, because they are the ones that are actually changing the rules. Now, a while ago, I did talk about either with you or Victoria, how the one thing people do have the issue with is the violence in games.
Right.
It's really a person-to-person thing, I'm going to say. If you play the games that have the gore and the violence, that's on you. That's up to you to do. If you can handle that stuff, great. If you can't, wouldn't really advise necessarily doing it. Now, we're going to go into stuff. So since we just talked consoles, let's talk about them a little bit more console-wise. So the big three, as I just mentioned, are PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, and Nintendo. You can see the stuff ranges. A lot of this stuff is kind of imitation-ish wise, but a lot of this stuff is different versions of the same things. You can go retro, as you can see. You can get the classic NES games, or you can get a PlayStation 4 for almost $500. Now, I know we've kind of touched on business and monopoly a little bit before. I feel Nintendo kind of runs the world on this. Now, Nintendo's kind of that funny little guy there in the corner, right? Because they have franchises like Mario and Pokemon.
Right.
They have consoles like N64 and Switch, and they have toys and gear as well. So I would say for those non-gamers, pick one. Well, actually, you know what? Pick a game first, and then a console. So let's jump to the games. You can go old school.
I'm going to get it.
Yeah, so you can go old school and do a Pokemon, a Mario, or a Sonic.
Which game would you like? PlayStation, Xbox,
Let's
or
do Nintendo games. Let's do Nintendo, since that's kind of where we're going right now.
All right.
So you can go old school and pick a Nintendo game. Now, a lot of these actually are newer now, which is funny. But you can do, there you go, Super Smash Brothers is a great one. Mario Kart is a great one. So if you're a non-gamer, maybe you are a parent that wants to game, maybe pick an exploration game or a racing game. Pick something that you really just have to push 2 buttons and that's about it. And then you're good to go. Pokemon Arceus, that's a game that I'm obsessed with right now until we get to our next game, which will be next month, but that's for another day. Sonic has a new game where you basically get to run around the map and just explore. You don't have to collect rings anymore. You just explore as Sonic. Who remembers Kirby? Animal Crossing. So gaming and consoles are 2 different things, but Animal Crossing actually brings me up a really good one. Krista actually brought up this idea earlier. Do you remember The Sims? Do you remember building games? Do you remember where you had to build your thing? Well, Animal Crossing is the new age of The Sims. So if you think about it, guys, these aren't really that odd of a selection of games. It's a new version of an old game that we played, right? So I don't know if you just want to put the links up. I don't think we're going to go over in depth on the other ones per se, but that's what I would recommend first. Pick a style that you like. So obviously when I said Sims, you smiled, you said, oh, I remember. So a game like Animal Crossing would be great for you, whether it's solo or with a partner, because all you do on that game is you build. You build a little house, you build a little island, you get to meet other animals, and you get to play as an animal. So you can be a raccoon or a dog or a cat. It's really cute. The console will come with it. So once you pick your game, you'll know on the corner of the game, it'll say for Switch, for PlayStation, for Xbox. Then you pick your console.
Right.
Any questions so far as we go?
No, I mean, I just remember you playing all these games and every, holiday time wishing for the next and the best and the greatest and,
Well, that still happens now because I'm still going, ooh, next month, another day. Now, just kind of an offset really quick, if you are more of a PC person, you can still do that stuff too. There's nobody stopping those games from made. As far as I know, many of the games you can play on systems have a version for the PC as well. You just have to look for it. Unfortunately, because computers have become more work than play, a lot of people have given up on gaming on computer because it's not really cool.
Correct.
I mean, I remember way back Oregon Trail is a great example. You can play Oregon Trail on the PlayStation now and on the Xbox. It's the same game. Obviously, everybody's a little more 3D now than they used to be.
Right.
But you can play the same game. You'd actually probably get a kick out of that because it's the same, it's the same game. All right, so that's part 1. So the easiest thing I'd recommend is pick your game. Pick your style, action, adventure, whatever. Now, gaming gear. This is the kind of, might be a little confusing part for some. If you are cool just with your system and regular controller, that's cool too. If you are like a lot of people on YouTube or Twitch, you might want something like the chairs, the multiple screens, the microphone. I don't know if you want to scroll through, just
Yeah, I
kind of.
will. Yeah. Hold on.
So gaming gear, this is kind of when you do feel comfortable, this is where you're going to go next. I mean, they even have glasses that do the kind of, it helps with the glare. So if you're on the screen all day, it's not going to hurt your eyes. You have your VR headset that actually connects to a lot
Right.
of systems as well as your computer too. This is just something where, because we're talking gaming, I felt amiss if we didn't talk about gear.
Are you looking at this, Rob? This extreme sim racing
Oh yeah,
simulator?
I would
Oh
not
my
be able to do
God.
that because I'd probably throw up, but people do like that for the racing.
All righty. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much where we're at, and that's kind of where I think I have my stuff. But hopefully, if anything, it gave you some ideas for the holiday. But more importantly, maybe some stuff you can do with your family over
And
the
I'm putting
holidays.
links up, Rob, for like Xbox games and PlayStation games, as well as the rest that we had going here. Because again, as you're saying, Rob, and I think it speaks right to me because a lot of these things I have no interest in. But when you say things like, almost like the oldies and the goldies, Oregon Trail, all that stuff, I go, oh, that was fun. And, Pong and all that stuff, it might be a really great way to share your past with your grandkids or your kids, right? Is to
Yeah.
find some of these oldies that are becoming newbies again, I think. I don't know. It's kind of fun. Maybe you and I should like do a game live or something. We'll have to do
Oh,
that.
we will. I'm sure we will do multiple versions. Yes. But yeah, I mean, that's that, guys. If anything, we probably just gave you a great holiday shopping list for, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I got. Hopefully, I taught you one or two things, maybe.
You did. No, you did. I just thought it was something you stuck in your, thing and you played. I don't, that's my thing. I don't know anything about that stuff. But now I do. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Always fun, Rob. We have a lot of good shows coming up in the next few weeks, so stay tuned. Make sure you go out and give somebody an awesome day, and we'll see you next time. Let me put the screen back up on the next Altered Universe Live with us. See ya.